Hello and welcome to another Europa Universalis news video. There is news about this game that we've all been playing quite a lot in the past few weeks. But yes, the news is good, and that is that patch 1.0.8 is now live. Now, I was streaming while this became live, and then as soon as I finished streaming, I closed the game, set my game to be on 1.0.8, and I got no download. So if you are wondering if this is any different from the beta that you were opting into, the answer, I believe, is no. If you've been playing with the 1.0.8 beta, this is no different for you. This is no change. This is the same thing that we've got. But it does mean that they are going to be moving on to the next major patch, which is 1.10. We're not doing a 1.0.9. They're skipping the 9. They're going straight into the 10. For whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe it's a typo. Maybe this is actually how it is going to be. Who knows? But also, tweaks and changes to 1.0.8 are not off the table. Sorry, are off the table. Everything is now coming in 1.10 or 1.09. Who knows yet? Either way, let's have a look and see what the changes are going to be. The highlights are that there are 8 new advances for the Aztec formable, 6 new advances for 2 Sicilies formable. I believe these advances are things that are coming from either Sicily or Naples that they didn't have before. I think there's like 2 for Sicily. When you form 2 Sicilies as Naples, you get some Sicilians advances. If you form 2 Sicilies as Sicily, you get some Naples advances. I believe that's how it is. I don't actually know if they're new, but if I'm wrong there, feel free to correct me in the comment section below. Plus 1 more Tenochtitlan advance, 2 more Sicilian and Neapolitan advances that can be unlocked. Maybe it is new. Maybe it is new because of that. I'm not sure. 320 bugs have been fixed, which obviously bug fixes are good. Save game optimization, fine. And combat tooltips, they've never been great combat tooltips. I'm not gonna lie. I hate the little green button saying, "Oh yes, you're gonna win this battle." I don't care. I'll just fight the battle. Let me figure that out on my own. New features. Literally just read that here. We don't need to say it twice. Gameplay changes. Settle the Frontier will no longer empty low-pop provinces. Basically, what this means is that Paradox watches YouTubers' videos. Thank you, Lathe, for fixing this one, essentially. Estate privileges are removed if the estate doesn't exist in the country. The only way I see this really occurring is with, like, the tribal estate. When you are, making tribesmen into peasants, and then you have no more tribesmen anymore, and all the privileges that you had given them are now gone. Cabinet actions remove old geography modifiers properly after being reassigned. Higher advisors no longer creates crown estate advisors. Look, I'm not gonna lie. This button was always absolutely, completely, and utterly freaking useless. Absolute trash, right? Nobody is spending. It's 102 gold right now. That's 4 times roughly my monthly total gross income. Nobody was clicking this button already. The fact that it gave you a crown estate character made it slightly acceptable. Like, instead of it being 0% used, it was like 5% used for the people who really wanted to maximize their crown power. Like, especially during court and country, maybe, but I mean, at that point, you're spending like 5,000 gold on a cabinet member. But right now that this doesn't give like the crown estate character, this button is functionally useless. Delete it. This button is garbage. If you want my suggestion, it will be essentially, you spend prestige on it. And prestige is really difficult to get in this frickin' game. Like, as you can see in this campaign where I'm playing as Sweden, my prestige is 0. My prestige is gonna stay at 0 unless I get a random event. Basically, I would say you have 3 buttons. One for hiring a guy that's got high admin skill, who would be from your generic clergy estate. one with high diplomacy skill, which would come from your burgher's estate, and one with high mill skill that would come from your noble's estate. And the stats would essentially be 1 gold stat, 2 silver stats. On the rare occasion, it would also give some a purple potentially. On the rare occasion, it'll give, instead of a silver, it'll give the brown. That's essentially what I think this button should be. And it should cost prestige. And it should also have a cooldown of 5 years, so you can't just keep spamming it. It would create a character with some stats. That's all it needed to do. It should not cost just objectively stupid amounts of money. Because right now, I'm pretty good on characters. Sometimes, and I don't know why this happens, sometimes I have freaking no characters whatsoever. And sometimes I have tons of characters. And the game's pretty bad at, giving feedback to the player on where they're going wrong on characters. Because I'm not going to lie, I have done absolutely zero effort to get this to be the case. Admittedly, I'm in 1364, and the problems usually start, after about a century. But I've done nothing to make this happen, and it has just happened, which is great. But sometimes it just doesn't happen, and you just have zero characters, and then this button would be great. Don't give me someone that is objectively OP. Don't give me a 97, unless in the most rare of cases. But don't give me trash either, right? And I'm not going to click this button because this is an Iron Man save that I'm actually interested in continuing for achievements and stuff. But yeah, look, the button is garbage, and you just made it worse, and I don't see any need for it. Fix Neru's attributes not applying to their country on ascending to the throne. I did not notice that, but yay. Centralization now reduces subject loyalty up to 30. Decentralization now increases subject loyalty up to 30, and it was 20. This is the big change that is this should be bolded and put up in the top. This is the thing that is changing people's campaigns the most. If you have a campaign that you've been running in 1.0.7, where you've been using the strategy of lots and lots of vassals, I would say that you maybe should rethink what you've been doing, because it's not going to work anymore. You will have a crap ton of essentially disloyalty, because you can't run the game like that anymore. Which is look, it was a way to play the game. I'd argue it wasn't the intended way. People did take it to extremes. It was a little silly, but that's changed now. You can no longer do that. And I'm trying to find an image that I saw of somebody basically turning all of Sweden into vassals. I remember seeing it just a moment ago, and now I've lost it. So yeah, never mind. It doesn't matter. But anyway, there is now, this is a huge change. Colonially, I would say you're probably better staying decentralized. Because if you go centralized, if you go absolutist, you will have a 0% chance of keeping your vassal or your colonies loyal. You simply can't do it. If we check these values now, decentralized here, plus 30 loyalty of subjects, this is going to help. You probably would be able to go absolutist decentralized, though I don't really know how. Centralized, obviously, still got that prox cost, still got the crown power. It's still very, very tempting. And no one cares about counter-espionage. But if you want vassals at all, you're probably going to have to go decentralized nowadays. Remove the impact of maximum war exhaustion from centralization and decentralization. No one really cared about that part anyway. Max decentralization now recovers estate satisfaction by another 2%, so just buffing decentralization a bit. Rebalance children's education to have more balanced improvement. I think there was one that was 0.2 instead of 0.33 increase, and that's been rebalanced, so whatever on that one. Ruler's Diplo skill now impacts subject loyalty. I thought it did already. I guess it did in a way because it did Diplo rep, which helps loyalty, but now it's even more so. Scotland's authority over the clergy law disappears if Scotland converts from Catholicism. Makes sense. Every 20k pops instead of 200k pops gives an extra free building level in a location, which is, it can be quite nice. Implemented a system where prosperity decays to 0 by default if no increases. This is to basically stop all of Europe becoming super loyal. Super prosperous the whole time. Like, you would have the entire world looking like this kind of green, even greener than this one. Now you can see there is a lot more variance across the world, and it looks a lot more realistic, let's say. A formula for an economical base that has different scale values on tax, pop, and trade. Having played with it a bit, I do prefer this new system. I do seem to have... look, the economy is still something that I am always going to be getting to grips with. It's still something that is not, like, trivial to understand. It's not trivial to work around. And obviously some people are capable of doing great things with the economy, and Generalist is probably the one to watch for if you really want to understand exactly what to do for that. But I think for the most part, and for most people, this is an absolute upgrade, and it's going to make the game a lot more playable, and I'm entirely fine with that. Tweaked cell location acceptance criteria, basically to stop people from just rinsing the AI for money by taking land that they don't want or need, and they're gonna... You can still sell land, it's just you're gonna get less money for it. Balanced pop growth values to compensate for lower prosperity levels. Removed demands for some goods for slaves and tribesmen, made some threshold for soldiers. Reduced nobles' demand for lacquerware to 10% of what it was before. So remember when you were getting to that stage of the game where you could then build a lacquerware factory, and oh my god, one factory is making 50, 100 ducats. Nah, not anymore. 5 to 7. That's all you're gonna get there. Added trade profit and subject tax levels to be part of the economic base calculations, further rebalancing of eco-base and taking building-based countries into account. No longer build or delete buildings in locations that are under siege. I don't think maybe you could... the only thing I can think of doing here is, oh, I'm about to lose this fort. Let me delete the fort. Yeah, that's essentially what I'm thinking here. If you're about to lose a fort, better off deleting it. Anyway, but that's no longer possible, so sucks for you. Building automation no longer changes employment system. Random characters are more likely to be of primary and accepted cultures. Females above the age of 40 will no longer get pregnant. I saw a lot of people complaining about this, and they brought sources. The age of childbirth, or the age, let's say, the age that women go into menopause and can no longer have children, has lowered significantly over the past, few centuries, to the point where women over 40 not having children is probably just, like, heavily ahistorical. I'm just repeating what I've heard from other people who are showing graphs and stuff, and I'm looking at the graphs, and the graphs look pretty, legit to me. But I'm not somebody who's actually looked into it. So if I'm wrong, then look, the other people are wrong, and I'm just repeating wrong information. But it looks legit to me, and I'm just passing that along. HRE election votes. After long reigns, the previous leader accidentally pumped up the GP score weight. Being HRE Emperor, I don't enjoy it at this point. Unless I want to become HRE Emperor immediately and then revoke Devotio and become the Holy Roman Empire, then I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of progress that can be made with the HRE. Removed food access diplo option if you're fighting in a war with the other country. So basically, you don't have to ask your allies for food access, and your allies will no longer spam you for food access while you're in the war together. You just give them food. Can no longer sell a location when at war. Fixed static antagonism related to societal values. Subject actions get cancelled after the subject is cancelled. Lacking rivals will no longer make you conciliatory, but instead makes you lose prestige. This one is another one that people are very unhappy about, and with, honestly, pretty good reason. If you are, for example, playing as, say, the Byzantine Empire, Roman Empire, whatever you are an empire. If you are doing quite well and you've managed to expand a bit, because you are an empire, you may not have any valid rivals. And previously, having no valid rivals meant that you were meant that you were just suffering a little bit of conciliatory push in your societal values, and maybe you wanted to be belligerent, who knows. But now it gives you negative prestige. So being a large enough country that is an empire meant essentially you had zero prestige. I'm gonna argue that makes no frickin' sense. I think that's a pretty prestigious thing. I am so big and powerful and amazing and all this that nobody could possibly be my rival. You're all beneath me. No prestige. Zero prestige. Prestigeless. I don't know. It's maybe something that should be looked at. Conciliatory no longer increases subject loyalty. Instead increases diplo rep, which therefore increases subject loyalty in that regard. Whatever. Remove base diplo rep from belligerent versus conciliatory. This literally just the same thing, wrote twice. It now impacts how much of an impact the shared border has, which makes sense. That's fine. Basically, if you're just coming to this from 1.07, then if you share a border with somebody, and we can see it here, then you will get a negative to your relations with that person. When this was first introduced, Norway, Sweden had a minus gajillion frickin' opinion. Portugal, Castile had a minus gajillion opinion because it was not taking pretty much anything into account other than the border. And now they're also doing things like culture and that to make it not be kind of ass. Where it is. Reworked a bit how subject loyalty is impacted by relative power. Made keeping subjects loyal a bit more fun. No one's buying that. Taking back a location from a revolter is now minus 95%, not plus minus 95% cost. I never noticed this being a problem. Honestly, I've seen a lot of people complaining that, oh, why can't I annex this revolt? It's 150%. And then they just fail to realize that you have a little button at the bottom saying annex revolter, which doesn't give a damn how big they are. I never saw it as an issue, but hey, now it's even less of an issue. Fair enough. Added border percentage option opinion mechanic from EU4, create a bit more conflict. Each vassal and fiefdom gives a small drift to decentralization. Civil wars now automatically end when a union between a tag and its civil war opponent is about to happen. The civil war is always the one getting annexed in this context. Okay, fair enough. Raise levies for the subject, no longer impact subject loyalty. Basically, as soon as you went to war, all your subjects raised their troops, and then they realized, oh, we're way stronger than you. Not anymore. That's gone now. That's nice. Adjusted colonial nations' loyalty values to take. They missed this out again? This was just copy-pasted. This was just copy-pasted because this typo of, missing out the next sentence was in the previous version of this. All right, I have found it. So, to take adjusted colonial nations values to take the subject loyalty rebalancing into account. There we go. Yeah, this was this was like over a week ago, and they've kept this in. It was just copy and pasted from the 1.08 original branch rather than any of the hotfixes. We had 4 hotfixes, and this whatever. Either way, it seems a bit silly to complain about. Reduced a lot of subject loyalty from advances, which is, I think, a bit of a shame, but yeah, it is what it is. If a country moves its capital, everyone who knew the old capital now discovers the old new one. Nice. Bought a few CB works properly. I don't think I've ever seen this happen. Bought a few CB. I don't think I've seen. Is that for like tribals? Maybe I'm not sure. Enable the request of subject nations from the subject to the overlord. Sorry, request of subject actions. I'm not sure what that is either. Can't leave a coalition mid-war. Fixed immediate full war score versus tiny nations with no cores. Conquistadors will become a normal location-based country when they become a colonial nation. Maybe these are going to be worth using now. I'm about to find out soon because I currently on the go have a Portugal campaign where I am going to be using conquistadors. Actually, probably tonight I'm going to be streaming my Portugal run. So if you're interested in seeing how they work now, twitch.tv/Lord Lambert_, and I'll be streaming some Portuguese, achievement hunting tonight. Shared borders now reduced if same culture or share a culture group. So Castile and Portugal would have a much harsher opinion penalty if they weren't both Iberian culture. Power relative to overload can now add positive bonuses to loyalty as well. Halved the default shared border opinion impact. Increase the scale from being belligerent. Manually doing a shattered retreat is now 10% loss to strength instead of 50%. And basically what this is this little button here, not this one, this one here, order full retreat. It would before take 50% of the health, and especially if you're using units like regulars, killing, of every 1,000 men, killing 500 of them meant that nobody ever clicked that button. At 10% though, I quite literally clicked it today for the very first time, because it made sense to click it for the very first time. So, yeah, this is a great change. Fixed being able to recruit to a boarded army from a location. Fixed exiling armies in places you declare war on. Levies now disband if the locations they come from are lost. Actually, this one, I think this has broken something as well, because a few times I have seen that when I am, especially when someone declares war on me, like a colony, for example, if you're highly centralized and absolutist and your colonies declare war on you, if you have your fleet docked in that port, it becomes black flagged and you can't unblack flag it. Even putting it into your own port doesn't unblack flag it. I don't feel like I saw that happening before, so maybe this has broken something? I'm not sure. Either way, all I'll say is if you are going to have a revolt, or if you think your colony might declare independence, do not have a fleet docked in that territory, because you will lose that fleet and you will have to either end task via your task manager and reload, or you will need to delete that fleet and rebuild it at full cost. So yeah, be careful with that one. Levies disband if the locations they come from are lost. This is not occupied. This is when you lose it completely. I also have not seen that happening. I just have not seen that happening. You can obviously, when you have a civil war or a revolt or something like that, it's not occupied. It is when you siege something, you reconquer it for yourself. I've not seen levies be deleted because of this action in 1.08. So I don't know. Maybe it is just something that we're looking at for like Timur's conquests, but I don't know. Complete refactoring of several combat algorithms like damage dealing, initiative, and combat speed, exposing them in more helpful tooltips. This I have not seen. Look, I have seen combat change. I've seen combat change in basically every single patch. I still think it needs work. We're not there yet. Maybe 1.09, 1.10, whatever it's going to be called, will be the one that fixes things. Maybe. That's all I can really say. It's not there right now. Maybe in the next patch. Maybe next year. Either way. Patrol the Seas objective works for the Hanseatic League. Fixed an issue where mill tactics had an impact on naval battles. I said this before, but I feel like this is fine. I don't feel like that should have been a problem. Cost of transporting levies now scales with the size of the levy. I hate this so much. This is complete ass. I really, really, really dislike this. Essentially, what we are seeing now is naval levies being not useful at all. What we're seeing is levies taking as much to transport as full-blown regulars. What we're seeing is depleted levies at 500 men, especially if you are a nation that can't raise 1,000 dudes. It doesn't matter, because your 500 men will pretend like they are 1,000 dudes and refuse to be transported upon a ship unless there is space for their, 900 imaginary friends. I hate this. This change was awful. Please revert it. I really, really dislike this change. The cost of transporting troops should be, I have these boats. These boats can transport 175 transport capacity. This should mean I can transport 175 dudes. This unfortunately does not mean that I can transport 175 dudes, because the calculations are just wrong and weird, and I'll whatever, just declare war a second, because I want to show you how much I dislike this frickin' system. Levies. We're gonna raise some frickin' levies. I'm going to raise them individually. There we go. So, if we have raised our levies, and we can see here that there's 260 dudes. They cost 1,500 capacity to... why? Why did 32 dudes, 1,500 capacity... Why? Why the fuck is this the case? I think this was a terrible change. Absolute dog shit change. Seriously. This is 32 dudes. 32 dudes and a horse. Okay. 1,500 capacity to transport. What are we doing here? It's basically acting as this peasant levy is actually at 1,000 dudes. 160 men and their, 840 imaginary friends. That's what this literally is. And the peasant levy here is 1,000 dudes, right? 21 dudes and 979 frickin' imaginary friends. This is so ass. Please revert this change, or just change the calculations, because I think this is just... it's terrible. It's actually terrible. 11 dudes, 1,000 capacity. No, I'm sorry. No, please stop. I refuse to accept that this is the way that you think that this should be. Reduce the age penalty for levies in the Age of Revolutions to 10 instead of 20. Whatever. No one should use levies in the Age of Revolutions. At all. The fact that the AI raises levies at all is just a net negative for themselves and the game in general. If you raise a levy, it is negatively good for you, right? It's not a case of, oh, I'm going to die if I don't raise levies. No, raising levies makes it more likely for you to die. You will be hurt less if you just let the enemy siege you than if you raise your levies to fight them. This is part of the reason that I think levies need a massive look at, because they are just worth less than paperweights. They're just awful. Actually awful. Especially in Age of Revolutions, this is not enough of a change. Now that levies basically just melt to like paper to regulars, should never ever raise them. You just should never raise them. It's crazy. Fixed prosperity decay bugs, allowed inland exploration, nice. Fishing villages applies a small bonus to harbor capacity. I really like that change. Can now colonize Iowa, which is in Japan. Pops no longer lose lots of literacy instantly if the max literacy is reduced. I think it just slowly goes down. Change the bonus modifier of the Renaissance to be a cultural influence percentage instead of flat as originally intended. And navies no longer keep army base nations, without armies alive. Basically, if you were fighting the Golden Horde, which no longer exists in my game, maybe it's because of this change, if they built a single navy in the Caspian Sea, then even if their entire army was deleted or died or whatever, they would not be exterminated as they should do when they lose their entire army. Also, I just realized in this campaign the Timurids are here, and that is scary. More lumber to Scotland, corrected some German names. I'm not going to read all throughout these. There are certain things that I think are really important. Most of them have been in here. And like I said, all of these have basically been said before. Again, there was nothing new that was added. But I will obviously leave a link to this full changelog If there's anything super important that should be pointed out, then definitely point it out in the comment section below. But yeah, it's pretty big. And look, as my overall thoughts are, it is a positive direction for the game, and I'm glad that we are still getting these betas, that we're still getting these updates, and the game is going in a positive direction. There are just certain issues that I think are just really bad, and I think the main issue that I'm seeing right now, not in 1364, but when you get into like 1500, the game becomes trivially easy because you have no desire to ever raise your levies. You're only using regular troops, and the AI is still raising levies, and they just shouldn't, because it's not even that the levies are worse. They hurt. To raise them just literally hurts them. But anyway, that is today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Again, I'm going to be streaming in approximately 2.5 hours. Well, by the time this video actually goes live, it might be closer to 1.5 hours. But anyway, Lord Lambert _ on Twitch, if you're interested in seeing me play a bit of Portugal. I am currently trying to colonize the Maldives and Indonesia, and then we're going to be getting an achievement for that. Yeah, head on over to Twitch if you want to see that. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, and go and enjoy some 1.08. As much as I do complain about things, I'm still having a ton of fun with EU5. Toodaloo, bye-bye.